Hello guys, John with you, and welcome along to another video. And this is the final reveal of the Char Canon FT17. It's called a Char Canon. Basically what that means is it means that it's a Canon chariot. Okay. They weren't actually called tanks during the war. They weren't called tanks until after the war. Tanks during the war. Excuse me. The term tank kind of originally was a code word for the tank, the Mark 1, the British Mark 1, when they were shipping it over from England over to France for the war. They didn't want basically the Germans to know what they were shipping over, because originally they would have been called land battleships, and if the Germans got a kind of a clue as to what they were up to, they'd have probably tried to prepare for these things coming over. You put two and two together, land battleship. It's going to be a battleship. It's going to be on the land, and this thing is going to have big guns, and it's going to frighten the living daylights out of us. So they were kind of originally sort of code word as tanks, and it was sort of disguised as water tanks. So if anybody knew that, if the Germans got hold of the communique that there was tanks coming over, water tanks coming over, that's just for water storage for behind the lines and things like that, nothing to worry about. So that's where the term tank came in. Each sort of country had their own name for what they were going to call them then, and it wasn't until sort of the 1920s that they were sort of generally referred to as tanks, and that's where sort of the term tank kind of came into, say, officialdom. So they were officially known as tanks after the war, not during the war. So this is a French World War I tank, because we still refer to them as tanks. Excuse me. So we're going to refer to it as a tank, because it is a tank basically, because it's got a turret and it's got a. It was the first of what we would refer to as tanks, as in it's got a turret and a coaxial machine gun. And if it didn't have a coaxial machine gun, then apparently it's not a tank. But that's what makes it a tank. Why, I don't know, because there's lots of other things that you could class as tanks, but they're not tanks. Anyway, this little kit from RPM Models, I must admit, I did have quite a lot of trouble with it. Fit issues were quite stark, shall we say. Some parts just didn't want to fit. Some parts were obviously too big to fit into it. Like, if you remember now, when I had the whole thing made, before I painted it and we put the doors on, we call them doors, these hatch covers here for the where the driver gets in and out. Once that was closed, you could blatantly see that they were actually too feckin' big. Now, it's okay once they're in the open position, because you can't really tell, but once they were sort of in the closed position, you could see that they were that little bit too big. I kind of held them in place with some white glue, because I knew I wanted to open them up and to have the doors open, but I wanted to have them closed for getting the camouflage pattern, because the camouflage pattern does go all the way underneath in there as well, even though it can't be seen. But you want to get some idiot like this going to pick it up and look in and say, oh, you didn't even bother painting in there. I did. So that was one, say, fit issue. Next fit issue was fitting on these side pieces here that have the suspension and the tracks. The fitting of those, if you follow the instructions, you're not going to get to fit them properly. Simple as that. And I followed the instructions and they didn't fit properly. So there was a mounting sort of in there, and it's supposed to line up with this piece here. Okay, it's supposed to line up with that. There's a piece that goes out there, down and onto the bottom there, and it lines up then with the back, and there's a mounting there on the back of that. And if you put the mountings on, this one will, okay, it will line up, because you can't get it wrong. It's actually positioned on the thing, it's pre-molded on. But the piece here then is actually back a bit, so it doesn't actually fit properly. You can see there. I don't know if you can see in there, but it's actually back a bit. It's actually sort of back here, whereas it's supposed to kind of attach here on the inside of that, and it doesn't. So obviously this piece here is supposed to be mounted back just a little bit further back, but I followed the instructions and had it sort of mounted in exactly where the instructions told me to mount it. And you know, once the whole thing was made, it should have been back just a little bit more back. But if you did that, then this long piece here wouldn't fit on properly. So where do you go? You're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, as they say. So fit issues I wasn't really happy with. When it came then to, there was a couple of other little parts that came with it. It came with a bucket, sort of, that you sort of dangle over the back of it there. And once I made the bucket, it's totally out of fucking scale. It's huge. It really, really is huge. I mean, that's far too big. It's far too big for that. Now, if it's supposed to be one very, very large bucket, then you know, then I'm wrong. But I held it up beside a 1/35 scale figure that looked okay beside that. But the minute you put the bucket beside him, you could see straight away that it was far too big. So I didn't even bother going to the bother of painting it, never mind anything else, because I was going to kind of dint it up and do a couple of nice little bits and pieces to it. But it just, unfortunately, it was too out of scale, so I didn't bother using it because it looked wrong. Okay. It also came with a chain. Now when I say it came with a chain, it didn't come with a made up piece of chain. It came on the sprue. There was a couple of little sort of a few links and things, and you're supposed to kind of put them together and glue them in place. And even at that, that looked horrible. It really, really did. It just, no matter how good modelling skills you have, and you made that chain and you stuck it on, it would look horrible. And I find that if something looks wrong on a kit, I won't use it. Simple as that. I just won't use it. Like figures, some kits there you get figures, and the figures can be really bad. You know, the head is huge or whatever. I think it was on the early Academy German kit there, and it comes with a figure, and his head is absolutely massive. And you use something like that looks wrong, it can ruin the whole effect, and the whole model can kind of be put off by just that one piece. So I prefer not to use it rather than using it and making it look wrong. By not using it, to the normal eye, you know, everything looks okay. Once everything looks okay, I'm happy with it, and that's all I strive for. I mean, I don't enter competitions or anything like that. I build for myself and for my own enjoyment, and once the whole thing, I'm happy with the look of the whole thing for a finish, then I'm happy with it, and I consider that then a success. And overall I consider this a success. You know, considering the bad fit and all, things aren't exactly perfect, but you'd have to really closely study it to see that. But on a quick inspection, I'm happy with it. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Nice little bit of an interior. I had to add a little bit in there because if you look in the back there, now I'll have to kind of, whoops, it is. I'll have to jiggle the light a bit so you can kind of see in. But you can see there, it's got a little bit of an interior there at the back. Now it doesn't come with that. I had to kind of scratch build that in myself, purely because you know, if you could see in there, and you can kind of see in there because you're making yourself a pretty large hole in there, and you can see that if there's nothing there, you'll see that rather than seeing something. So I added a few little bits and pieces in the back just to make it look, you know, pleasing to me, because that's what kind of counts for a finish, really. As long as, like I said, as long as I'm happy with it, then I'm happy. Once it was made and stuff, and I got onto the painting side of it, I was happy enough, shall we say, because it was all together and I'd no more sort of annoying bits and pieces. So then what I did was I popped off the two sides again and painted it. I gave it an overall dark yellow. then painted on the camouflage scheme using native green and native brown and flat black, then to sort of the lines in between the different colours. Scratched it up a bit, rusted up the exhaust pipe there, and you know, give it an overall black wash. And while the wash was still wet on it, because I use oil paints and white spirit, and while it was still wet, I did a little bit of wet blending with some yellow ochre and some other oil paints, and just kind of blended it all in together to make it look right. And really happy with how that came out, and stuck it all back together again. And then we fitted it to the base. And in the last video, if you've watched it, I built this little base on the video. Yes, I built a little base on the video. Very, very handy, very, very easy. It only cost about €2.50 all told, and you know, it's a nice little way to display your your kit, display your work on something nice and small, especially if it's a small little kit like this. It's going to get lost on a shelf, so give it something to look nice on. And we used the decal off the decal sheet there on it as well, so just so you can see what it is. It's the Char Canon FT17, the Renault FT17 as we sort of more commonly know it. French built loads and loads of them. They were used right up, even in the Second World War they were used, because the French had loads of them left over, used them for training interwar period. And when the Germans invaded, then they found a stack of them, and they used them for themselves for sort of internal security purposes. So they just repainted them all in the sort of the German grey, and stuck on their swastikas and their crosses and God knows what else. And they used them for sort of internal security, to sort of police units, as they call them. And they were used sort of for things like that, and they worked out. Sure, saved them using, say, frontline equipment, and their police units in the rear echelon had some form of protection against you know, small arms and stuff like that. So they did their job. They did their job. So that's really about as much as I can say about this kit. If you want to see the building up of it, go back, watch the videos. There's about 8 or 9 of them there, where we go from an unboxing right up to this stage. And overall, I'm happy with how the whole thing came out. Now, saying that, I would not recommend you to go out and buy this kit. Okay, if you want to get your hands on an FT17, go out and buy the Meng one, or I think Tamiya one. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I wouldn't recommend this one. It is not a great kit to build. If you have it in your stash already, then by all means build it and enjoy building it. But you know, just be prepared that there's going to be a bit of work to do. The instructions are very, very I was going to say very, very bad. They're not very, very bad, but they're not great. They're not great. But you can get it. You get it to this stage anyway. And you know, I'm happy with how the whole thing came out. So I'm going to leave it at that, lads. Thank you very much for taking your time out to watch this video. Any comments you want to make, or tell me what you think, stick them in the comments box below. Did I make an okay job of it? Did I make a hames of it? Let me know what you think. And don't forget to give it the old thumbs up, give it a like. And by giving it a like, then YouTube are happy with me, and they'll kind of push me up with their sort of algorithms, as they call them, and I get kind of pushed up the line of recommendations and things like that to other people, people that would watch videos concerning model making and things like that. And it boosts the channel, and by boosting the channel, it'll improve the channel, and kind of might kick me in the arse to sort of improve my skills, hopefully. Anyway, thanks for taking your time out. Like I said, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and if you have, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget, hit the like button, or hit the bell, should I say, sorry, hit the bell, and you'll be notified as soon as I upload another video. So thank you very much, and I'll see you all soon on the next video. So in the meantime, be nice to one another out there, stay safe, and go out and buy yourself a kit, build it and enjoy it. And until the next time, take care.